Greetings, priest beasts. Welcome back to the channel. This is Primal Sutra. I am Uncle Makara. Zoom, scripts, Zoom. You already know what it is. Hit that subscribe button if you're new, like the video, let's get started. Today we're talking all about stress, okay? This is a big topic that a lot of people struggle with. It's one of the things that I help people with, stress management and so forth. And I've created almost like a stress protocol, okay?
I use sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system.
If you're ever interested in working with me one-on-one on any of these things, definitely shoot me a message and let me know if you're feeling currently very stressed out. Let me first of all just tell you that adrenal burnout is a myth, okay? It's something that was explored. After the stress response, there's exhaustion. But understand that your adrenals can probably keep you going and alive for like 200 years or so, okay? It's a very ancient system, and you don't need to be scared of like, oh, my energy is gonna all fizzle out, and by the time that I'm old, like, I'm not gonna be able to move, and I'm gonna be, you know, in this chronic. Now, there is something, syndrome, an adrenal insufficiency syndrome and so forth. However, that's a different point, okay? We as a culture are very, very scared of burnout because we fear that by burning out, we will burn out our wallets, therefore burning out our survival and security. One thing that I love doing in reference to my core wound is I love putting myself into my physical body with different activities and calming my mind down during those physical activities. Let's say I go for a bike ride and I calm my nervous system down as it gets more stressed out or in a specific situation. So using the peripheral vision, right, as I'm riding the bike, using the breath work that I was telling you guys, in these moments of shock or panic, these are great tools or tweaks that you can make during this. One of them, you know, I got this idea actually from one of my top students, Wade, who was with us in Costa Rica. He was saying the journey for him started as soon as he got on the flight. And what was interesting is he was experiencing a lot of turbulence in the flight when he was coming to Costa Rica. And generally he'd be freaked out, but this time he's figuring out a way to make his mind relaxed, whereas his body was experiencing the panic. The mind was able to dissociate or zoom out in a sense and calm itself down as it was happening in the external world. So stress, the real definition of stress is actually mismanagement of the internal and external worlds. So if your internal world is not matching the external, you're gonna feel stressed out. This is why a lot of perfectionists get stressed out, right? Because their standard doesn't match the world's standard or whatever they're creating for themselves. Like, you get stressed out and you won't hang out with friends because they have different eating habits to you, or they have different, you know, other ways that they do things, different behaviors that you don't like, okay? It's about being more accepting as well throughout this understanding of stress, that many people have different stressors, okay? Things that cue their stress in, and it's important to relieve ourselves from those stressors, create less suffering, not more, based on the way we think about those things. It's very, very important for you to understand that there is eustress, which is good stress, as well as de-stress, which is bad stress. And if we split it up into short-term, medium-term, and long-term, we can look for approaches in all three. What can you do short-term, right away, okay? Now, I've often understood that for a lot of people who are very anxious or very stressed, they're not going to be able to wind themselves down and, you know, get into a meditation or like a yoga posture, right? In that state, you're so in your doing and you have horse blinders on, right? And you're so hyper-focused, hyper-attuned and alert to what is going on that you can't get yourself to randomly readjust your mind to be more mindful, okay? You can't just bring nirvana in like that, like, oh, you know, the agitation and the fear and the frustration actually reminds us that something is about to happen. It's that anticipation that builds, right? There's something called the physiological PSY, okay? There's a lot of studies on this as well. And it's very important that you try to make your exhales longer than your inhales if you are trying to create stress relief, okay? So 2 breaths in, So it's one air, inhale, and a second sip of air, okay? That means you're creating more air, more oxygenation in the lungs, getting rid of that excess CO2, okay? Making the diaphragm rise, okay? Bringing much more air into the lungs and the heart to breathe and circulate all these toxins out. It's gonna be very, very key for you to tap into this breath. So let's do it together. Also hand over the heart, releasing oxytocin. So then, okay, you can hold it for a few seconds if it helps. I like to hold it because it gives me that feeling of like you're getting it into a chamber of some sort and then you're like just flushing it all out, right? So try it again. Just two or three times. Just try it with me. So 2 more times, let's go. Exhale with a sigh, like a through your nose and mouth, okay? Very long sigh. Last one. Good. Now you will already feel very, very calm, okay, by doing this 3 to 5 times. Start to notice that your sense of calm is now bringing you much more clarity, right? Much more confidence, much more of a feeling of ease and effortlessness rather than the frantic panic that you were experiencing earlier. It's very, very important, and in the moment you can actually remember this and understand this, okay? Now in the medium term, let's say that your stress is lasting for a week or 2 weeks, okay? Medium level stress. Maybe some deadline is coming up, okay? Again, reframe, okay? Don't call it a deadline, call it a due date. Just by that shift alone, you can change how you're interacting with that word and so forth, and then changing the neurochemistry based on the word and how it's like figuring out what reaction is being caused by the word itself, right? Deadline comes from the word of people being in a deadline, right? Dying, and corpses in a row, right? And so it already has a negative word like origin, etymology, and it's in our system, and when we focus on the word dead, it's almost like dead end, right? And it's like we can't get past it. So it's closing a literal door, right, on our future, which is of course going to create stress for us because we're survival-based social beings, right? And so if we have a deadline, it's actually closing the door on what we think is possible. So if you just say it's a due date can extend, right? And so it creates less pressure and therefore you maintaining that. For more medium-term stress responses, I'd highly recommend you use panoramic vision. Hakalau, some people call it, okay? In Hawaii and so forth, the tribes and the natives there. You can also just bring your hands like this, okay? And just pretty much wiggle your fingers like this, just so you can see and have a good sense of your peripheral vision, okay? Your peripheral vision, you're looking at, you're not focused in with the horse blinders anymore. You're slowly looking and becoming more mindful of what's around you, okay? Now, mindfulness can be a very subjective experience too, so we want to keep this very objective, okay? Things that you can do in the moment. You can count like 5 different red hats in the room and do all that, but in the moment, you just using your peripherals, calming down your breath like this, grounding your feet, a lot of these things will help. I will also give you much more practical maneuvers if you want to work with me one-on-one. A lot of this information is coming from Andrew Huberman, so if you ever check out his podcast, you can figure out the rest. One thing that I've noticed is I want to open up my sinuses in order for me to get that energy boost and that stress management, okay? If one is clogged, I'm gonna be very one-sided or lopsided in my brain, actually, okay? There's not enough air flowing through the channels of the nasal passage, right? So you want your nostrils to be cleaned out. Just blow out your nose, okay? Let all the sinus, let all the gunk out. Get a good nasal spray. You know, figure it out for yourself, okay? Neti if you want, but again, I'm not a proponent of all yogic techniques, okay? Like, I'm just sitting here looking at what is the most effective as a neo-shaman. You guys might have heard of Wim Hof, okay? He has a lot of Guinness World Records. He's known as the Iceman, okay? He can, like, plunge into ice baths and stuff like this and, you know, survive in ice water and so forth. Shout out to Alex Pereira, also known as the Iceman in IMC Nation. You already know what it is, okay? Before Wim Hof was something called Tumo breathing. Tumo sounds something like Chief Deno would love. It's basically that it's like creating hyperventilation. Obviously, you want to know the precautions of this and so forth. You don't want to create hyperventilation if you're very anxious and, you know, might induce a panic attack and so forth. However, right before the cold, you know, what you're doing is essentially you're creating more adrenaline. And with that, it's actually protecting your immune system, right? The adrenaline actually protects the immune system. The stress actually protects the immune system in the short term, okay? If you understand that the agitation that you're feeling in the beginning of a task, which is called the struggle phase of the flow cycle, okay? If you're unfamiliar with any of these terms, that's understandable, but just go along with this, okay? Go along with what I'm teaching you. Of course, there's supplementation like that you can take for stress relief. The ones mentioned was theanine, melatonin, as well as ashwagandha, okay? These are common for stress relief. Ashwagandha is shown to reduce cortisol in the long term. You can look up supplements online at examine.com. If you just go to examine.com, you can put in the supplement and you can find all the case studies and the PubMed articles related to that supplement, okay? So you can find some, you know, scientific backing for your practices and so forth. And if you're very spiritual and woo-woo, you know, sometimes this kind of stuff is really going to help, okay? It'll give you like that kind of objective framework. And I'm not, again, this is not about following the Huberman cult, okay, of only science, or following the Eckhart Tolle cult of only spirituality. We're finding a way to blend both of these worlds together so we can be, you know, hemispheres synchronized, living authentic, pure, out into the physical world, priest-beast lifestyle. Let's get it, you know, being men, feeling good, not like it's wounding or toxic, and, you know, it's arrogance and all of these different, you know, childlike boyhood mechanisms, you know, advocating as men's rights. But anyway, let's not get distracted. You want to learn how to relax the mind when the body's activated, okay? One of my core wounds that I struggle with is a schizoid archetype associated with bioenergetics. Does not mean I'm a schizoid personality. It means that I'm very up in the head at times, and that's the way that I respond to stressors. So knowing what your core wounds is, you can do the quiz, get back to us. We're gonna help you with some protocols out. There's also a guided 20-minute meditation that you can do that will actually help and guide you with the particular core wound that you have, okay? And if we can also figure out a way to use our framework of Primal Sutra to help you, that's great as well. We work with a lot of different energies, frequencies, patterns, deities, and we pull that greatness out through channeling, through different methods and mechanisms that we use, through, you know, imagery and media and so forth. We did some natural grounding yesterday. Of course, there's sleep issues as well. I will make a separate video on sleep in case you guys are interested to learn more better ways to manage your sleep. I also have a huge like sleep protocol that I've written up for my high-end or repeated clients that have access to me either locally or online. And we can easily get around a conversation of those topics, okay? If you're not getting enough sleep, your acute stress is gonna get into the chronic stress over time. Okay, many years of no sleep, you're gonna get chronically stressed out, man. You're gonna be frizzled and frazzled out, okay? You're gonna be like jittery and jumpy and just, you know, living like that. If you understand social connection in the long term, social connection is very key for long-term stress, okay? Very key. The vagus nerve connecting us to the social connection, and therefore, you know, calming down our nervous system by reminding us that we're safe, that we belong, and so forth. Okay, we're social creatures ultimately, so if we don't get that, or at least believe that we feel connected to the rest of the world, then we're gonna be isolated, alone, and, you know, more stressed out. The main kind of molecule here that's affecting it is tachykinin, okay? And this is like a reminder for you to basically socially connect again. If you're getting all of these negative symptoms of tachykinin, then that's how you want to interact with it. Improve your serotonin in the long term, so work on your nutrition and your diet, getting enough sunlight, exercise, sleep, all this kind of stuff, okay? Creating satiety, meaning feeling full or this is enough. It's connected to our fulfillment and our safety. Create more meaning, create more delight, and creating more bliss, okay? Of course, bliss can also be related to anandamide and so forth, coming from the Hindu word ananda, or anando in Bengali, right? Which means happiness, right? So maybe you're going along in the day, maybe you're shaking your body, right? You're kind of opening up your body language more. You're learning how to stretch your body open so you can breathe better, releasing that carbon dioxide, not going out at night and like, you know, breathing in the trees, you know, flushing out that CO2. And a personal favorite one of mine, and I don't know if this is because I was like a warrior or badass in my past life or whatever, or just because it's my testosterone, you know, boiling in my veins. But I like to visualize a very dangerous weapon, and this could be anything from a mythical weapon to a modern one, okay? It just makes me feel safe. Just visualize, imagine you just closing your eyes and visualizing you have a giant sword. I mean, what does that do to your internal safety response, right? It just makes you feel safe, right? In an environment where something is threatening, no, you see it more as challenging, bring it on, right? And so if you have a giant weapon, or like you know, some kind of chainmail, or you just imagine that you have like a lightsaber, or like a giant axe, or like a warhammer, or like a machete, or like something, right, that makes you feel like, yeah, I'm good, I can't get attacked. And it's an astral weapon, right? It's not a real one, so you can just kind of envision it and use it according to how, you know, you seem fit. I once had a student of mine who was struggling with feeling very, very unsafe and angry in situations, and he actually has a real knife. And I don't recommend this with everybody. However, if you do have a knife, I have one, okay? If you do have one, what you can do is just simply hold it in your hand. And by you simply holding it in your hand, right, it'll calm you down. It'll calm down the stress response. Because I believe that we were hunter-gatherers in the past. We have this in our muscle memory somewhere, that if we get into a fight stance, or if we get into this protective mode and feeling of like, I have control over this, it's like the weapon can harm me and it can hurt others, but I have a huge responsibility by holding this in my hand. So the reminder of the responsibility that I'm holding it, you know, is gonna create some sort of an impact. So I think that's super powerful, okay? If you can think like this and you can apply all these tools I'm giving you today, it's gonna be fantastic for your stress relief. Again, telling someone to calm down, okay, it's all gonna be fine, that's not gonna work, okay? The body speaks in breath. The body speaks differently than what you're telling it. It understands the main kind of gist of the words you're using, right? And kind of creating these heuristics or quick rules, these, you know, mental shortcuts that it's trying to take to make you feel safe and so forth. So understand that all of the cues around you, your environment, it is going to be determining your frequency. Like I have those images behind me, you know, it's gonna create my vibe, it's gonna create my frequency. This has been here, you know, since the start of my YouTube channel. So it's like, that's been, you know, kind of suggesting to my subconscious over and over again, this kind of understanding or vision for myself. So I hope this video helps you out today. Use that visualization wisely. Get into a peripheral vision, you know, use that double breath in, you know, make your exhales longer than your inhales. Just really give yourself a good night's rest, a good night's sleep. Okay, we'll talk about that more in another video. Hope you enjoyed this video today. Hit the like and subscribe button. Just kind of my thoughts around stress relief. Hope it helped you out today. Let's get it upward spiral game. May we never be the same again. Gods in training, Os.